Hello everybody, Kemo Sabi here, coming at you with another video. This is off of ABC Net AU webpage. A write-up posted by the ABC News Breakfast by Patrick Wood. Posted 3 days ago, updated 2 days ago. With the topic of Australia has a continuous history of curfews. Will one help Melbourne beat coronavirus? Stuart Danglesh came to a realization on Sunday night. He would be breaking the law if he took one step past his front fence. Stuart isn't a criminal. He isn't a wanted man, but he does live in Melbourne. As the city's first ever widespread curfew came into effect at the weekend, 5 million people suddenly found themselves living in a dystopian novel. Police now patrol the streets with expanded powers, smashing the car windows of those who refuse to give their details. Pre-recorded government messages ring out over loudspeakers in empty train stations warning of the virus. Door-to-door checks are being carried out by police and Defence Force troops. And those on the streets between 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. now need to carry government papers to prove they are allowed out. It's pretty much how we've been living for the last few weeks anyway, so no real change, Stewart said of the impact of the curfew. However, it was odd last night to realize that I'd be breaking the law just by stepping past my fence. Curfews are as foreign to Melbournians as bad coffee or warm sunlight on a winter's day. Yet the jury is out on how effective they are, with some experts warning they have unintended consequences. Australia's history of curfews. There have been other curfews in Australia, but none quite like this. As the most egress, they have been a racist tool against Indigenous Australians to keep them out of cities at night. Until the 1950s, Aboriginal people were prohibited from being in Perth CBD after 6 p.m. Brisbane had a similar policy that came into effect at 4 p.m. and on Sundays. Fast forward to more recent times, curfews have been deployed to tackle youth crime. Perth tried one in the suburb of Northbridge from 2003 to 2012 before pulling the pin. In 2011, Victorian police trialed a ban on kids being out after dark if they had recently run into trouble with the law. And debate has been raging recently in Alice Springs over bringing one in now. Critics say they're simplistic and unworkable, but they remain popular among some politicians and police. Internationally, curfews have been used in an attempt to quash violence and unrest elsewhere, from India to Thailand to the United States. It was only a few weeks ago Black Lives Matter protesters, shrouded in darkness and tear gas, clashed with police as cities imposed curfews after the death of George Floyd. The common trait of all these curfews is they are an attempt to control a specific portion of the population deemed rightfully or wrongly to pose an immediate threat to the decent order of society. They are an enforcement mechanism, a less carrot, more stick approach to unrest. Rarely are they used to shape the usual behavior of a peaceful and general population. But 2020 has a habit of throwing up the unexpected. Curfews used to halt COVID. Victoria isn't the first place to use curfews in an attempt to control the coronavirus outbreak. Albania's government deployed its army as far back as March to enforce a strict 40-hour curfew. In Bolivia, only one person from a household was allowed to leave the house 1 day a week. You can find more examples in South America, as well as Africa and India. Experts have debated the effectiveness of curfews for years, questioning whether they are fit for purpose. Paul Brass is an emeritus professor of political science and international studies at the University of Washington and says the evidence, at least in controlling unrest, has been unclear. There are, to my knowledge, no scholarly studies, or possibly any studies at all, that consider either the effectiveness or the impracticality of the countless curfews that have been imposed in most societies at some time or other, he wrote in the Journal of Human Rights in 2006. For the most part, we have nothing but official and media reports that state arbitrarily either that curfew was imposed in such and such a situation and succeeded in bringing peace and calm, or that it did not do so. Lately, some experts have argued nighttime curfews could work to combat the spread of COVID-19, but only if the conditions were right. Epidemiologist Colin Furness told the Global News curfews worked in Wuhan and could help shorten lockdown periods. He cautioned they should be a measure of last resort after everything else had been shut down, lest they create confusion that led to a backlash. Epidemiologist Timothy Sly told the same outlet curfews could stop some people moving around and spreading the virus, but they could also inadvertently bring people together and put them in harm's way. People that would be at the grocery store are forced to go home, but they still need to get their food, he said. Instead of going later, between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m., for example, they now have to go in the middle of the afternoon with everybody else. So what led to the Melbourne curfew? Victorians have been sold on the need for strict stage 4 restrictions, including curfews, quite simply because a significant portion of the population wasn't doing the right thing. Hundreds of people who tested positive for COVID-19 didn't follow self-isolation rules. Some were going to work sick. The case numbers continue to rise. To keep the COVID-19 outbreak under control, we need to keep the growth factor below 1.0. Australia's current growth factor is 0.99 of August 9th. Average cases per day is 494 cases per day for the past 7 days. Highest was 1.28 of March 18th, and the lowest was 0.87 of April 14th. In response, Victorian authorities have taken a strong enforcement approach characterized by record fines. Police Minister Lisa Nivelli described the sweeping new measures as extraordinary powers for an extraordinary time. But on what basis were the Melbourne curfews designed? The ABC put these questions to Victoria's Department of Health and Human Services, DHHS. What modeling/analysis was the curfew based on? On what basis were the times 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. decided? Does the HHS have modeling on the impact this specific measure will/could on the coronavirus cases? Is the curfew in response to a particular issue that became apparent, i.e. house parties? Was this measure decided in consultation with other groups, i.e. police, community groups, etc.? The DHHS response in full was, Melbourne's curfew has been designed to limit the movement of people and limit the spread of the virus across our city, it said in a statement. The only reason to leave home during 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. are for work, urgent medical care, and caregiving. These measures have not been taken lightly and are designed to work in tandem with other stage 4 restrictions to slow the spread of coronavirus across Victoria. Premier Daniel Andrews gave a little more at his press conference yesterday, saying, It's to stop this notion which we think was occurring. I will duck over to a mate's place, it's all fine, I will feel well. That's what spreads the virus. In the absence of more detailed answers, there's a sense we're simply throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. In the meantime, Stuart and his fellow Melbournians will have to remain behind their fences and trust these restrictions will work. Hope you enjoy the write-up, everybody. It'd be awesome if you leave me with some comments. Great if you hit that thumbs up like button. Peace. And roll till the wheels fall off, everybody. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye.